It's always a pleasure having you watching Church of Uganda Family TV. And at this particular time, I welcome you to Transformed Lives program. This program is brought to you by Church of Uganda Family TV in partnership with Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship. And this program is dedicated to inspire you, to motivate you, to encourage you, and to give you hope. So don't lose hope, because out of the stories we share here on Transformed Lives program is a reason for you to keep your smile, to believe God again and again and again. Edrine Osteen Mukalazi is my name, and this particular evening we are blessed to have one of the most influential people in this country. And when I talk about influential, I know you're asking who this person is, but we are blessed to have the head of laity for West Ankole Diocese, who is also the director Manifesto implementation in the office of the president. Now you're asking yourself, how does he manage the two? But he also has other roles he has played and he plays. So all that is in this program. Don't go anywhere, because we have Mr. Bashasha Willis. Director, it's a pleasure having you here on Church of Uganda Family TV, but also on Transformed Lives program. Thank you so much for joining in. Kindly greet our viewers, and then we continue with your life-changing story.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, Family TV. My name is Willis Bashasha. I'd like to say hello to all the viewers watching this program, and I thank you for coming for me to share with me my experience.
Amen. Amen. We thank God. So we want to get into Willis Bashasha's life before he's director, before he's head of laity. Where did your life start?
My life, like any other person who has come into this earth, came through two parents, Mr. Yorokamu Bashasha and his wife, Claire Bashasha, who live in Katungu, Wechitoma village, in Nyakabirizi division, Ushenyi Shaka municipality. That's where our home is. That's where although I was born in Mbarara Hospital, because that's where my father was working, but that is where our home is, and that's where we have been born and bred. Yeah.
Okay. So we will now continue with your life. How many children were you as you were growing up?
We were born 9 children, 7 boys and 2 girls. And we are all grown-ups, we are all adults now. Many of them have families, like myself. The girls are married to their dear husbands, and with many grandchildren. Now my dad has many grandchildren, so all of us have families, and it's quite a big family now. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So we will go to the education life, and because I understand in those times, studying was not really easy for people.
Yeah, that's true, but I think in our times things were slightly a bit better, and what I can also say is that my father really valued education.
Okay.
And I started my primary school in what we call Welanyanji Boarding Primary School. This is next to our cathedral, a few kilometers from our home. And like all children of that time, we were walking to this place. So we had all those experiences of suffering, of walking on foot to this school. Yeah, and we were day students, we were not boarding, because I think later it introduced the boarding section, but when many of us had gone through, at least my time, it was all it was a day school throughout, yeah. Okay. And then from there, I went to Montiera High School, which is in Kajara and Tungamo district, where I did my O-levels, and then continued to Ntare School, where I did my A-levels, and then ended up in Makerere University, where I did my first degree, my bachelor's.
Okay.
Then, yeah.
So in all this time as we are studying, before you even get to Makerere University, what were your aspirations? What was this profession you're looking up to as a young man? Did you want to leave your father's footsteps?
Yeah, my father had not gone much into education, but he was, I think, a trained teacher at that level. Had finished junior school. I think joined and got a certificate in education. Me, I think naturally we used to have our, there's a gentleman called Duncan Bijurwa Wamonjobora. He used to, whenever he would be on holidays, he would come to our primary school and teach us. And he had told us that he had studied administration, becoming a DC. So to me, that touched me, that area. And my bias towards what to be in life was to be a DC, an administrator of sorts. And I think it's worked that way.
Okay.
Yeah, in a way.
So all through your secondary, your high school, you wanted to be a DC.
Yes, and even what I did my first degree at Makerere was in social work and social administration.
Was it easy for you to join Makerere University?
Yeah, I didn't have any problem. Because, and by the time we joined Makerere, there were no government sponsorships. Just your grades would be the one to take you there. And the course I did, there were only 45 people in the country. By then, that was the cream of the arts class. So it was not easy, but with God's grace, I was able to be part of the group.
Okay.
And this is around 1988.
Oh.
Yeah.
So just before any other experience, just to shed for us a picture of your coming to Makerere University as a young man who has come from Ntare School. Now you're in Kampala. You're supposed to be here for 3 years minimum, and then have this education, and what it meant to you and to the other people who didn't get a chance to come to Makerere University.
First of all, it was very exciting because I think in the family, my father's lineage, I could have been the first one to go to university. So it was a very big family achievement. And then coming to Makerere, I had not been to Kampala before, and it was quite exciting, but also with some shocks on the way to go about certain things. So you come to university. The first time I met my friend, I think actually my target was to do law on the onset, but later I found I just missed it by a few points. I think like 1 or 0 point something. Then I had a friend of mine who is the son of the late vice president called Peter Wavia. We were together in Ntare. So I met him. We were staying in Kororo at my uncle's place. He happened also to stay in Kororo. So I went with him to go and check on my results at the university in Makerere. So when I reached there, I found I had been offered Swasa. And then he said I had applied for law as my first choice. He said, and he was doing law. So I said, what is your experience? He told me, law, you have to read a lot. And me, I wasn't a person who really enjoyed reading a lot, although that would mean that I would get consumed in books. So I asked him, how is it? So I said, yeah, Swasha is okay, it's fine. I don't think it is as demanding as well. I said, okay, then let me keep here and do this one. Then settling in, of course, meeting friends. Now there are friends whom we had come together from Ntare School, but we are in different disciplines. But also meeting new people. We are coming from different schools, Miryango, Budo, and many other schools that we are introducing. And like I said, this class was the top, that was the cream of the arts class. Of course, meeting some girls from Namagunga, Gayaza, and the rest of the staff. Of course, I also was coming from a background which was a bit strict. So I wouldn't say that I was a bit free with Kampala life, although naturally as a person I'm a very, very outgoing person.
So what do you mean by the Kampala life?
No, Kampala by then it had its own invitations. This was a city. The social life is different. You know, opportunities for anything. You know, now, even the freedom now being more freer to yourself than those who are coming from a home which was a bit strict. Now you are here, you are kind of independent. So you needed to choose, what could be good for you or what may not be good for you. And there are so many attractions, of course, the nightclubs, also growing in life and maybe beginning to pick interest in relationships, that kind of stuff. So all these things were there. And like I said, but I was always being, I think, struck by the fact that I was coming from a strict and conservative background. But nevertheless, I was a free will person, I was an outgoing person. So we made friends, started connecting and enjoying life like others.
So how were you enjoying life, keeping in mind the strict background that you come from?
Of course, at the university by then we used to have what we called guild discourse. Then we have the hall discourse, and then of course there are the nightclubs in town. But I think the guild one was the most attractive around the city. So, and the city was trying to stabilize. We had just come out of the war, 1986. So we were here around 1988, and there were other issues like weddings. Many of the soldiers were wedding and would love to go for these.
Even without invitation?
Well, you would find either there is a brother or a relative who is your friend, and then you just end up going for these things. But the point you are raising is that along the way, maybe you are enjoying yourself, but you are like, maybe my dad is watching me as I'm in this guild disco, or I'm in the whole disco. Maybe my dad is watching me. Oh, he has been told that Willis was in this and this. So that was a bit a bit checking. So you find like you suffer like some kind of uninvited conversions. You are enjoying myself. Is my father watching me? Or has he been told I'm in a disco? Then, but again, you say, I'm far, I'm free, and that's it. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I believe by the second year you were now used to town, to Kampala city.
Kinda, yes.
Because you talked about the shocks you had.
Yeah, the shocks were there. For example, one of the key shocks was that as I was growing up, I had never eaten roasted chicken. So we all knew that chicken was to be boiled. now coming to other guy for chicken was being roasted. I was like, we need to be ready. Are we eating something that is ready? So those are the experiences. Of course, in terms of other ways of life, I had my friend also whose family were very close, the relative Sinja family. The son was living here, so they had a home, so I would go, and it was like, when we were together in Tari school. After Tari school, he went to SMAC. Then after that, during his vacation, sometimes he would come and visit me, pick me, and we enjoy life around town. So at least I had somebody who knew town, and whom we could talk, and whom we had almost very close background from home. So life was okay in a way. Then once in a while over the weekends, I go and visit my uncle's home in Kororo, and my uncle was a very strict man. He would, visits would mean visits, and after that you go back to school. That was it. Yes.
So after Makerere University?
Yes.
Yeah, what happened?
After Makerere University, I think I went back home. The job opportunities were not as readily available. I had to take on some work, I think at the district, and then I knew how to drive. And I think there was the late Adonia Tiberondwa, who said you can be even helping me with some driving help. So that also kept me busy. But much of the time I was.
Had you learned the driving while in Kampala? Or
No. That was even long way before.
Okay.
In fact, I think I started driving around 12. That's one of the things.
What had inspired you to learn?
No, we had a cat home, and I think our father was a bit was a very strict man, but I don't know why he was a bit flexible on that one. And we started learning, maybe as we come from church, we'd sit on his laps and start. So that built confidence in us, and then from there, by actually completing my O level, I was a perfect driver on the road, and I think I had gotten even a permit by then. Yeah. So but most of the time I was at home, helping on the home chores, milking, vending milk to town, and other family-related business. Yeah, my dad had a hardware shop in town. Sometimes would go and assist in that area. Yeah.
So how then were you managing this other offer of driving?
Then sometimes we had a driver at home, but then we would also go and you act like a town man because we had a pickup. Sometimes when the driver is not there, you go and also drive. So I did some tax driving, if I may use the word. Yeah, both in the vacations of O level and the A level, and even after Makerere when I had not yet got formally employed. So I would engage because that was part of the family business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then how and when do you get the formal employment?
So the job came through. I think it was like God's grace. So I meet this person, a lady who tells me, I'm from the president. I'm from State House, and the president wants to meet you. I said, he said they'll fix the appointment, and they'll go and see him. But even then, I had already post Makerere, because in Makerere I was already active in politics. I did not necessarily youth politics, but in terms of part of the discussion groups which were on, because when we were at the university, we met some of these other vibrant group that had served in the army and came to, and had come back to university. The late Mayombo, may his soul rest in peace. Lieutenant General Mujira, the late Shaban Bantariza, Brigadier General Karemere, and other groups. So we had joined and had become part of those groups in terms of discussion on the way the national politics were moving. By then they were the movement politics. So even when I went back home, I think that's the time they were moving into electing NRC members. So I was involved in some of the campaigns. I think that was Mushega and later Donia Tuberondwa, like that. So I think through that my name had been picked. Of course, there has been another story that is always commonly told, that I know my mzee met His Excellency and said, me, there is nothing I want from you. I just have my son who is educated but unemployed. So that's the narrative. But because I've never private to that. But now I saw somebody approaching me and said the president wants to meet you. I said okay. So I was like, hey, how did he pick on me? But then the day for the appointment came. I went. I was picked. I think even this gentleman, Paul Tsugira, was the private secretary there, legal, and then there was Herbert Nwagawa, also a private secretary there. So I came to Kampala. I had the appointment. So I came here to actually this very building. We moved Paul actually is the one who drove me.
Yeah.
We went in his Pajero and reached State House in Tebe. So we were ushered into the ground somewhere on some lawn. By then, it was the old State House structure. So later, I met some people I didn't know there. I think there were two other gentlemen. One was a gentleman called Andrew Kangao, is there, and another one is called David Mugamba, and then another gentleman who was shot with glasses, whom later I got to know he was a Commissioner General, Revenue Authority. And so the president comes out and he meets us and greets us, and he says, "I'm handing over these boys to you. The rest is history."
Just like that.
Yeah, we went, and that's it.
So did you, by any chance, try to follow up the other narrative that people say that maybe your dad made the president?
Well, whether he made or didn't, at least it didn't contradict from where the outcome was no less. so I took it to be that.
Okay.
Maybe they could have discussed. They could have met, I don't know whether through a phone call, they could have met since my father has been an active politician by then. They could have met in their meetings. And for a long time he has been a close friend, because they had met in Barra High School. My museum was there, and I think he used to tell me of the stories how His Excellency the President and then the former Foreign Minister Kutesa came to Barra High School, and how he was mentoring them there. So that's for another day. That's for another day. Yeah.
So which role were you?
So now I go to URA. Of course, we are made to undergo some interviews, which we did, and then we were told to wait. And then later, I was called. So I've been appointed that I should go to report to the Commissioner of Customs. This was none other than Jacqueline Babazi, the wife to the former Right Honorable Prime Minister John Mama Babazi. And so I began my work. Then in another, after I had settled in, the now official deployment came through, and I was pushed to go to Marawa as my first working station. That was another shock of sorts. First of all, I had never gone beyond Kampala.
So your longest journey was between Mbarara and Kampala?
Of course, as I grew up, the farthest I had gone was Mbarara. That one was okay. Now, I had added Kampala as I was upping in my education. Now, of course, now I had now got used to the city. I knew it in and out. Now come the working life out of Kampala, this side. I never crossed the eastern side of this country. And so I somehow connected with the people who had also been deployed, whom I was going with. We go and report to Maraba. So going there, I found there was a gentleman called Ruanga, who was our, I think they called them principal revenue officers, who were heads of the stations. And the experience was that now he takes us and shows us a uniport. So I was like, yeah. First of all, in my life, I had never, apart from when I was at the university and maybe visiting, I had never slept outside my home. I didn't know life in a lodge, I didn't know life in a hotel. So this was it. Now coming out of my home and being ushered into a uniport, life was not as easy. So we take on that, but fortunately, I think around within like a month or so, one of the staff was being transferred, and then a house fell vacant. So we moved from our import to the main house with another friend called Musisi. I think these days he works with the Electoral Commission. And life started. I started becoming a customs officer, the job I did for 18 years.
Wow. So, what about the language at first? Was it so easy for you to cope up with the language?
Well, most of the transaction of government is done in English, so it was easy to know what to do. However, the challenge would be how to communicate with these truck drivers and some of the clearing agents who were of the local population, because that is most of the people there are Bateso. But it's a bit cosmopolitan because you have many people who come there to look for jobs and do this kind of work, driving, clearing, hotel business. So it's a bit cosmopolitan in these border areas. It's never hard. It's never, you can never fail. So we even had our Nyankore who had also been there as part of the industry, clearing industry, hotel industry, and some other businesses that were going on. So I had to sharpen my Swahili skills as fast as possible, because that was the language that would easily cut across, and I'm good at languages, so I didn't have a problem with that. Over time, I was able to fit in, but and then I you know, because I'm gifted with people skills, I had also started giving a shot on the local language, some Rusoga languages, because these were the very common dialects that were being spoken at this border. So yes, it's true, the language was equal another shock, but we managed to keep through. And of course, when things would be complicated, now you'd have to look for the official language to sort you out.
So did you spend all the 18 years at Malaba?
No. That was my first working station. Then later.
How long were you at Malaba?
I think the starting point, I worked there like for 2 years. Then I was moved to go to Busia. And when I was in Busia, I think the management at the headquarters were forming what later became like the intelligence unit. It was called the Rapid Response Unit, to deal with managing issues of revenue fraud and especially customs related fraud. And this would be in form of dumping, transit dumping, these trucks which should be taking goods across the country to other countries, and they end up dumping them here because they would be traveling under bond without paying taxes. So if you dump here, it means you have compromised the tax liability that would accrue, that you would have foregone, because they are not supposed to pay. They just bonded and then you move out of the across the frontiers and get out. Then so I was called to join the team that was identified. So we came here, it was being called a mobile task force. So I headed one of the teams that was responsible for transit fraud to the northern region. Now that also gave me now another opportunity to get to know the northern part of the country. By then I think Tamak was going up to Karuma, so from Karuma off to Arua, there was it was Maram, and you know we still had these problems of the insurgencies. There was still heavy deployment and some ambushes going on within the region, but with God's grace we went, we operated, we worked, and we are lucky we never had that incident, at least to me and my teams. Then after that, I was deployed to Entebbe Airport, and worked at Entebbe Airport for some years, I think like 2 years, and I was sent for training in India, one of the best academies in India, which is called the NASIN, the National Academy for Customs, I think, and Drugs Control, and for like 2 months. So we came back here, and it was a UNDP program, so were selected, like 10 people, to go for it. So when I came back, now I see my then late Kihula, who was a commissioner customs, calls me to his office and says, we are sending you back to Lucia now as the head of the station. Can you imagine? And he just cautioned me that, the biggest issue he had with me was my dress code. I used to love my jeans and khaki shorts, and he was like, Willis, now you are going to the station, please improve on your dressing code. He said, now you have to start being a man of suits. So I said, yes, sir. And I went. We moved in, of course.
Was it easy for you to adjust?
Yes, I had no choice. I remember when I came back for the management meetings, some people didn't believe they were seeing the same man whom they used to see. Because now I was fully clad in suits. I went and served in Busia, I think for some 2-3 years as a head of station. We did a lot. Then I was again deployed to Maraba. Maraba is the main entry point as now head of station. Actually, when I was there, one of our regional managers by then, Mr. Tang, was retiring. So I saw by then I think Allen had become a commissioner customs. So I saw an instruction saying I should take over. I should stay as head of Maraba, but overseeing the region. That meant the region was from Karamoja up to the waters, so all the borders were under my control, and then the hinterland up to Jinja. So these were all supervised under the eastern region. Then after that, I think then came the restructuring of the 2005, which now oversaw the whole turnaround of the URA. Then I was now moved to headquarters. I came to the customs headquarters, and I was responsible for planning and I think largely planning and headquarter management, because I was in the commissioner's office. Then I think that's the time I said, let me move on. And now I retire early. That was around 2009.
What prompted you to retire early? Was it the much pressure, or you were fed up of the experiences?
No, I think I had my share of service. Maybe, sometimes God could be opening other doors without knowing. It just came as a thought. And like I told you, because I was a cadre involved in many these mobilizations and whatever. So whenever I would meet with my groups, would share some of the challenges we're having in terms of leadership here. So we agreed that we are in the army, do your army work. That's why in this, let's go and help and see what we can do in this way. So I decided to go for leadership. And I chose to go and stand as a chairperson in my home district, local government.
So you resumed politics?
Yeah. By then it was still a very huge district. Actually like a province. These 5, when it still had all these 5 districts which split later, it was quite a huge area, right away from the bridge, Katunguru, to here in Kashaka, then down south in Ntungamo, I think up to Weju. It was quite a province. But later also politics were taking another trend, people wanting services nearer to the people. Around 2011, as I was getting into the actually heat of the campaign, a split. In fact, that announcement found me, I think I was deep in Mitoma, trying to mobilize. Yes, and I was like, oh, how come? I had moved very well. I had put my teams in Kunyaruguru, in the Shemba, everywhere. I was actually, and because my father had also been a church person and a leading politician within the region, so it was easy. My name Bashasha's son. So, oh, we know your dad. So it was easy to propagate myself. So the spirit, now I had to remain with a small part called Igara. Actually, I had not moved much in Igara. So this time round, I had now to concentrate. Yes, and I was lucky by God's grace. I became the chairman for 5 years, which I did to my best of abilities. And then after that, I wanted to give a shot to member of parliament. But for us in the party, there are primaries. So the primaries didn't go well. And I had to accept the verdict. And people were saying, come back as an independent. I said, no, that's not my line of thing. And that's diluting the whole party discipline. Because if you are part of the party and then the decision is that this is the primaries, maybe for whatever reasons you have not gone through, so you support the candidate who has gone through, and that's what I did, and that made me stay. So while you're there, and I see, I think before then the president calls me to Guru, as in Guru, and then we discussed issues of Ushenyi. So she says, what are you doing? I said, no, I'm home. I said, okay, fine. Then after a few, whatever, I see him appointing me to his national task force. They had already started the national campaign because we are going into the 2016-2021 term. And that's it. We went through the elections, became a president, and then I was again idle but orderly at home. So, of course, the issue was like, what next? I was still sharing with my friends on what we could do. Do consultancies in the tax area, start a business, do farming, anything that would come my way. But when I was there as a chairperson, I started organizing I had a piece of land, so I started organizing my home to where to live now. Of course, what I didn't tell is that around 2001 I got married.
We're actually going to get to that. We shall get to that.
So now, that's it. Now, if we may conclude this journey, is that then around 2016, around July, I see July to August there, I see an appointment of the director, Manifesto, coming through. So I said, okay, thank God. So till today.
Wow.
Yeah. Till today.
This is an amazing journey. Now, we want to, before we get into the journey of how you met your wife, we want to get into the journey how you become the head of laity for Western College Diocese.
The journey of being the head of laity, what can I say? While chairman in Ushenyi, I got close to the workings of the diocese. And by then we had Bishop Katonene, and I think Bishop Katonene, one thing he did for Western College was to allow young people to come into the church and also participate in the structures of church. You see, these church structures before, they're always dominated by these old people, canons and whatever. So many of us found ourselves, there are many, it's quite a big crop, now coming into church, coming members of the parish councils, going into the synod, and when you are a member of synod, it gives you a qualification to stand as a head of laity. So before I came in as a head of laity, I had served as a member of the synod.
We are still with Mr. Willis Bashasha, the director of Manifesto implementation in the office of the president. Director, before the break, you had actually told us how you had become a member of the synod, and now, how then are you appointed as head of late?
Actually, that position is not an appointment position; it's an elected position. So the synod is like the highest decision-making body for the diocese. And then we have what we call the Diocesan Council, which is like the implementing arm of the decisions of the synod. So along the way, I see some proposals of some Christians coming to me and say, Willis, we want you to be the head of laity. I think by then we are even transitioning from the reignship of Bishop Katonene, and we are expecting our current new bishop, Bishop Johnson. And around that time we had a lot of turbulences within the diocese. So the diocese was a bit polarized because of the different interests and factionalism. So we were not really moving well as a diocese. So some voices started coming through, and I was like, but you see, I've been in the thick of these issues. Why don't you allow me some space? And I said, people say, no, you see, we trust you. We can take your word. We are getting a new bishop, so we need somebody who can be firm and welcome the bishop and see. I said, fine, okay, if that is what you want, let's let it be. And I said, then we went through the process, because you have to come through the parish, and then you become a member of the synod. So my parish nominated me to go to be a member of synod. My Greater Shenyi Church of Uganda sent me to represent them now as a member of the synod. And when I got there, again, I think we were like 4 people then, and people elected me as a head of laity. And then now we had to move into the welcoming of the new bishop, the consecration, and the rest of the issues. And that also became like a rallying point for all the Christians, and another entry point for our unity, which had been shaken. And this diocese now brings us back as the original Shane, because it's a representative of the 5 districts. Much as politically they are individual, but when it comes to the issues of the diocese, it's under one leadership. And we welcomed the bishop. We started a new chapter. The bishop had his charge, which we took on, and of course the rallying point was how we unify the diocese. So some people were very worried that me becoming the head of laity and coming from politics would be a divisive factor, but I said no. I prayed to God. I said, give me the wisdom to steer through this and see our diocese get together. So we had Bishop had a very strong message of love that unites, and we all rallied around that and started a new journey as a diocese. And we were happy along the way. Even what you call the pessimists started coming on board, and we moved on. So we had programs for the diocese which came through the projects, and my role is largely mobilization and advisory to the bishop. And we have done wonders now as we stand correct, and we are proud of the achievements.
Sure.
Yeah. So come the second term also, this last synod, I was again re-elected as a head of laity, amidst a few, I don't know how I can call it, and I don't know what it was for, because I think because West Ankole being in the area where people love politics and highly opinionated, it was hitting the waves everywhere. And that time I knew that many of the dioceses were going through similar things, electing their heads of laity, but it was not as pronounced as ours in Western Korea. But still, through God's grace, I was elected again, and with a big margin, by the way. Yeah, and here we are, still moving, and we are happy.
Amen.
It's the journey.
Amen. Now, Director, we are now embarking onto the journey of 2001 that you had you had started. How do you meet your wife?
My wife, my wife, you know, I'm in a second marriage. My first wife, she was working with me, and she was also a customs officer from Toro, so, you know, like what affections manifest. I think she fell for my heart, and I also fell for her heart, and the rest was history. It was now a question of going to their family, introduce myself, and then take her home, introduce her to my parents, and then the traditional processes had to follow. Around 2008, she passed on, and we had 2 kids, 2 daughters. So we may also rest in peace. So then later, after 4 years, I think around 2012, I met into another love of life, my current wife. So it's in a similar way. I had to go through the rituals of the institution. I go to her home, and she comes. I take her home and introduce her, and actually that's when I had entered into politics of being a chairman, and everybody was like, you know, to be more responsible, you need somebody to be next to you to help you. So and then but good enough they had elected me to chairmanship, and then she came into my life, I think 29th December 2012. Yeah, we got married. We are also blessed with 2 children, a girl and a boy. So my family has 4 kids, 3 girls and 1 boy. Yeah.
So we now wanted to bring out the 3 things. We understand you're the director, Manifesto implementation in the office of the president, you're head of laity, and at the same time you have a family that also needs you. So how are you managing to balance all these 3 offices?
Well, each of the offices has its own mandate. The home office has its mandate. The head of laity office has its mandate. This office also has its mandate. But I would say, by grace of God, I don't know how much I can score myself, but I want to say I've tried as much as possible to give the best to the 3 assignments, and it's not easy, because sometimes you find that these, especially time conflicts, you know, the family needs you here, but this is the time now, maybe when the bishop wants you to be for this activity, maybe the diocese wants you, they're inviting you for a meeting, but this is the time when you have fixed maybe a field monitoring visit with the office. So you have to create a balance on how to handle the 3. I may not be the best person to answer whether I've performed fairly or poorly or excellently. Maybe the best answers would be like my wife, and maybe the session team I work with, and probably my chief technical advisor here, the PS. But all I can say is that I try to prioritize, and sometimes when there is a schedule conflict, I see how best to give precedent to which is more important. Yeah, but as far as the family is concerned, is that I have to be there for my family all the time, and we are people who are so rooted. Every holiday we have to be home to our country home, and this is also to help our children appreciate where we are coming from and the roots, but also to love their heritage. Yeah, and you know that can also work well if you have a wife who understands you better. So if you're on the same page of the family ideology. So my wife has been very supportive, has been very encouraging, has been very instrumental in some of the decisions we make as a family. And you know, when you when you find you are differing in ideology, you don't move far, but many times than not we tend to agree, and just has helped me to be able to deliver comfortably and confidently on the other mandates. Yeah.
So we look at very many families are failing because of what you call the conflict of time, that sometimes there is an imbalance between family and work. So what can you say about this, especially when it comes to strengthening families? How can people balance the two? You're supposed to work and bring food to the table, but also the family needs you.
That's true. I think the starting point is at the family level. You need to appreciate these different demands, and then that should be able to allow you to be able to prioritize and give precedent to what comes first, and how will it be handled. Because the moment you don't agree in that kind of respect, you find that maybe you will think what you are doing is right by bringing the food on the table, but the other people don't seem to be that is where they see the biggest value of you. So you need to agree and say, yes, I have this calling, maybe where necessary share the program, I have this schedule, I'll be here, I'll be here, I'll be here. So now, if there are any issues that are of family nature that may fit in, then you can say, okay, I think since this one may not be as much as whatever, let us fit this in. And it's true, and because me, in my working life, I was a bit distant from my wife. Even when I was in these borders, my wife was working from here in Kampala. Because I started as a bachelor, and when I married, still I was working within those distances. So when I came and got into even this second marriage, I was a chairman, so I was working here, so still I was a distance. So, but like I said, the whole issue is about being open to each other and getting to know that, these are the demands, or competing demands. So what do we prioritize? What do we give precedence? And then through that, sometimes you may have to rule for purposes of the big picture, and for there are even decisions that you may take that are for the social capital of the family. They may not necessarily be the right choices, but for the bigger picture, for some of us who are very, very highly networked and love people, sometimes you make a ruling and say, no, I'll go here because there's no economic value, but there is something that these are our family friends, these are our people that have been with us. So, but it's quite a complicated game. So, like I said, the starting point is that focusing and agreeing on these competing demands, and then you agree on the priorities. Yeah.
And the last, as we wind up this discussion, is you talked about your life in Kampala, that you were always remembering the strictness at home, that even as we are dancing, inside your heart you're like, maybe my father is watching, maybe someone is going to report to him. So this now gets back to the issue of parenting.
Yeah.
And we realize in this era it is totally missing, that today children are freely doing whatever they are doing, even without thinking about what you had and the fears that were in you. What do you think parents can do to mentor and
maybe before I answer, let me also share this with you. When I was still chairman, I started when I was still staying at home. I had my house, but it's still within the compound of my father. By then, sometimes I would come late, maybe finish the office, and then you want to go and meet the community, so want to socialize a bit, and because when you are also aloof from the community, people will think either you are proud or whatever. Now, what is interesting is that in the morning you wake up, and then as you are preparing out of office, you say, you hear your dad say, what time brought you here? so why do you still move at this time of the night? And now this is an adult, this is a chairman of a district, this is a man who has served in the country, in many parts of the country, without your tutelage, and the man is asking you now, what brings you this time around? And why don't you come early? You know? so I can understand. So going back to the issue you have raised, of course, society is not static. Society is not static. As it grows, as it develops, so are the challenges. You know, when we were growing up, maybe the democracy and governance of families was following different principles, which now, I never had things like human rights in our times as we were growing up, and now it is a global issue.
children's rights?
It has gone about from offices now to be part and parcel of the society. So certain actions, because of the new ways of where society is going, bring on board new either opportunities, or challenges, or side effects along the way. The same applies to these phones and the social media. You know, first and foremost, we cannot run away from it because that's the level of where society is. But now it has its own side effects, it has its own challenges, it has its own opportunities. Now, I think to me, the question is, how do we, as parents, keep focused? Have what I would call some doctrines for your families. What would you want to see in your children? How would you want them to be? But like I said, there will be pressures, because the parents will not be very aware. And I don't know, and the regulatory aspect, if you are seeing the regulatory is slowly being diluted through the new world order, and this has a direct impact on what is going on as parents. There are those parents who came through very hard, difficult backgrounds, who, out of psychological reasons, who do not want to see their children suffer. And maybe they think they are helping them by not giving them the same background. And I think many of the parents fall in this category. Then there are those who are privileged and feel that so are the children. And then the children also grow up with this entitlement, why should I walk to school when I have a car in the compound? They don't know that it doesn't follow. It's not a factor as far as going to school and being successful in school is concerned. But these are the days, these are the times where we are living in. And we may not have a one-cut solution to this challenge. I think, to me, as parents, we need to study situations of the environments we live in, of the circumstances that pose pressure on us, and because there are some people who have not been near their families, but the children are very well behaved. They are disciplined, they are successful. And there are those parents who live with their children every day and whatever, but the kids are committing suicide, saying, you know, but for us you are like envious. I say, I wish I was like Mukalazi, who goes home at 5 with his wife, but the children are committing suicide. And then you look at these contradictions, and you can't explain them. So I don't know whether I can say this is a one-cut solution to this issue, but my point would be that as parents, probably we need to do what you'd call a SWOT analysis around you and the family, and see what are the strengths of the family, the weaknesses, opportunities, the threats, and then you see how you juggle in and work out something that can work for you as a parent. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Director. We are indeed grateful, and I believe this story you shared with us has been full of wisdom that has impressed very many people out there who have followed through. May God bless you so much, and thank you so much for this time.
Thank you, Family TV, for giving me an opportunity.
Amen. Sure. To you, our viewer, thank you so much for choosing to watch Transform Lives program this evening. This program will be repeated on Wednesday at 9 p.m. So, just in case you came in late, please endeavor to watch again. Edrine Osteen Mukalazi is my name. God bless you.